The stars shimmered against the black canvas of space as the USS Horizon glided through the emptiness of the unexplored region. Dr. Lauren Mitchell stood at the large observation window in the medical bay, taking a rare moment of peace before her next shift began. 20 years of service had taught her that quiet moments were precious and fleeting. The ship's intercom crackled. "All senior staff to the bridge. Repeat, all senior staff to the bridge." Lauren grabbed her medical kit out. Of habit, Captain Frank Miller wouldn't call senior staff unless something significant had happened. As she walked quickly through the corridors, other officers joined her, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. On the bridge, Captain Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the main view screen. A strange vessel hung against the stars, unlike anything Lauren had seen before. It had an organic look, with smooth curved sections that reminded her of seashells, glowing with a soft blue light. "Dr. Mitchell, glad you could join us," the captain said without turning. "We've made contact." Lauren felt her heart beat faster. First contact, every explorer's dream. "They call themselves the Zarthak Collective," Lieutenant Jack Peters explained. From his security station. "They initiated communication about 20 minutes ago. Their language translation algorithms are impressive." Captain Miller finally turned to face his assembled senior staff. "They've requested a diplomatic meeting. They seem peaceful but cautious, very organized." Over the next week, communication continued between the two ships. The aliens were deeply interested in human culture, particularly their organizational structures. They asked countless questions about ranks, chains of command, and decision-making processes. Lieutenant Peters brought a data tablet to the medical bay one evening. "Doc, these aliens are obsessed with our rank structure. They've requested detailed explanations of every insignia, every title, every reporting relationship on the ship." Lauren looked up from her patient charts. "That seems excessive. From what we can gather, their entire society is built on rigid hierarchy. Each individual knows exactly where they stand, who they report to, and who reports to them. No ambiguity whatsoever." "That sounds exhausting," Lauren replied, signing off on a treatment plan. "The captain wanted me to make sure you're in the briefing room tomorrow. Their ambassador, some high commander named Vex Toral, is coming aboard. Full diplomatic reception." The next day, the ship buzzed with nervous energy. The crew had spent hours preparing for the visitors. Lauren stood in the main shuttle bay alongside the other senior officers, all in their dress uniforms. Captain Miller had insisted everyone look their best for humanity's first formal diplomatic encounter with the Zarthak. The alien shuttle docked with precise movements. After a moment, the door slid open to reveal 5 figures. They were tall and slender, with iridescent blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their faces featured 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and instead of hair, they had what looked like delicate fronds that moved gently, as if underwater. Most striking to Lauren was their clothing. Each alien wore an elaborate outfit with different colored panels, emblems, and what appeared to be rank insignia, covering nearly every inch. Even to her untrained eye, it was obvious which one was in charge. The central figure wore the most ornate outfit with brilliant colors and multiple layers. Captain Miller stepped forward. "High Commander Vex Toral, welcome aboard the USS Horizon. I am Captain Frank Miller, commanding officer of this vessel." The lead alien made a complex gesture with its 4-fingered hands. "Greetings, Captain Frank Miller. I am High Commander Vex Toral of the 7th Echelon, Primary Diplomatic Division, Southern Quadrant Authority, Zarthak Collective." The alien's voice came through a small translation device, sounding slightly mechanical but clear. Lauren noticed something peculiar as the alien delegation followed Captain Miller on a tour of the ship. A smaller alien, wearing simpler garments, was constantly observing and recording everything. This alien paid particular attention whenever crew members interacted, especially when those of different ranks spoke to each other. "That's their anthropologist, or whatever they call it," whispered Communications Officer Lisa Ward to Lauren, named something like Clichat. "Has been absolutely fascinated with how we organize ourselves." The tour eventually reached the medical bay. Lauren stepped forward as Captain Miller introduced her. "This is Dr. Lauren Mitchell, our Chief Medical Officer and one of our most experienced crew members." High Commander Vexterol tilted his head in what seemed like confusion. "Doctor, this is a rank designation?" "It's a professional title," Lauren explained. "I'm responsible for the health and medical care of everyone on this vessel." The junior alien Klichat immediately spoke up. "But your fabric emblems, they do not match the captain's. Your position in hierarchy is—" Captain Miller intervened smoothly. "Dr. Mitchell is part of our senior staff and reports directly to me, but medical has its own command structure within our organization." This explanation seemed to both fascinate and disturb the aliens. Klichat made rapid notes on a device while Vextoral's fronds rippled in what Lauren guessed might be agitation. Over the next few days, the aliens continued their observations. Lauren noticed they paid extreme attention to who gave orders to whom, how people addressed each other, and especially the visible symbols of rank. Klichat had even requested a complete guide to uniform insignia, which Lieutenant Peters had provided. 2 weeks after first contact, Captain Miller called Lauren to his ready room. "The aliens have completed what they call their hierarchical analysis of our crew structure," he said, looking amused. "They've created this." He showed her a complex diagram on his screen. It was an elaborate chart showing the entire command structure of the ship, with lines connecting every position and rank. "They're very proud of figuring us out," the captain continued. "They've requested a formal diplomatic dinner tomorrow to celebrate our successful cultural exchange." Lauren studied the chart. "They've put a lot of work into this. They value order and structure above almost everything else from what we can tell. Their society has evolved to eliminate any ambiguity in their chain of command." The next day, the observation lounge was transformed for the diplomatic dinner. The senior staff sat intermixed with the alien delegation, according to a seating chart the aliens had insisted upon, carefully matching what they believed were equivalent ranks. "Hi." Commander Vextoral raised a glass in what they had learned was a human custom. "To understanding between our peoples. Through proper order, cooperation flourishes." Captain Miller returned the toast. "To new friendships and peaceful exchange." Lauren noticed Klichat watching every interaction with intense focus. The alien had created an entire database of human behaviors correlated with rank. Little did any of them know how quickly their carefully documented hierarchy would be challenged. As dessert was being served, the ship suddenly shuddered. The lights flickered, and a moment later, a deep boom echoed through the hull. The emergency alarm began to sound. "Captain to bridge, report." Miller barked into his communicator. The voice of engineer Sam Daniels came through, strained and urgent. "Containment breach in engineering, sir. Radiation leak. We've got multiple injuries and—" The communication cut off with another ominous rumble. Before anyone could react further, the deck beneath them heaved violently. Lauren heard the crash of breaking glass as people were thrown from their chairs. When she looked up, she saw Captain Miller lying unconscious, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. The real test of human hierarchy was about to begin. Chaos erupted in the observation lounge. People shouted and stumbled as the ship trembled again. The aliens stood frozen, their fronds quivering in what seemed like distress or confusion. High Commander Vextoral stared at the unconscious Captain Miller, then at the other officers who appeared equally disoriented. Lauren didn't hesitate. She rushed to the captain's side, medical kit already open. "He's got a concussion, but he'll live," she announced after a quick examination. She pressed a bandage against his head wound and then stood up. "Computer, ship status," she called out. The ship's computer responded in its calm voice. "Engineering sections 12 through 15 experiencing radiation leak. Emergency containment procedures in effect. Communications to affected areas are offline. First Officer Commander, Eric Nelson's location, Engineering Section 14. Lauren's mind worked quickly. The captain was down. The first officer was in the danger zone. The chain of command was compromised. She tapped her communicator badge. "Dr. Mitchell to bridge. Lieutenant Peters. What's your status?" "Bridge is operational, Doc," Peters responded, sounding stressed. We've lost contact with engineering and most of Deck 7. Life support is stable, but we're getting readings of radiation spreading. Where's Commander Nelson? Lauren asked, though she already knew the answer. He was inspecting the new propulsion system with Chief Engineer Daniels when the breach occurred. We've lost contact with both of them. Lauren made her decision instantly. Lieutenant, initiate emergency protocol Baker 3. Seal off all affected areas. Get me a security team to escort our guests back to their shuttle, and have Nurse Kelly prepare sickbay for radiation treatment. Yes, Doc. Peters paused. Shouldn't we wait for Captain Miller's orders? The captain is unconscious with a head injury, Lauren replied firmly. Time is critical. Execute Baker 3 now. High Commander Vex Terral stepped forward, fronds flaring. Who issues commands now? Your insignia indicates you are not next in authority sequence. Lauren turned to the alien while still applying pressure to the captain's wound. Commander Nelson is trapped in the affected area. In a medical emergency, the chief medical officer has authority to make decisions affecting crew safety. This wasn't strictly true in all situations, but Lauren knew the aliens needed a simple explanation that fit their understanding of hierarchy. She didn't have time for a full lesson in Starfleet emergency protocols and their overlapping authority structures. We need to move, Lauren continued, gesturing to two security officers who had just arrived. Johnson, Garcia, help me get the captain to sickbay. The rest of you please escort our guests to safety. Secondary Commander Zukan, Vex Terral's aide, spoke rapidly in their native language to his superior. The translation device only caught fragments. Violation of hierarchy, confusion of authority, danger. Lauren handed the captain's care to the security officers and faced the aliens directly. High Commander, I understand this situation conflicts with your understanding of our command structure. But right now, people are in danger. If you want to observe how humans handle crisis, follow me to sickbay. If not, security will escort you safely to your shuttle. Without waiting for a response, Lauren strode out of the room. To her surprise, she heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Klichat, the junior observer, following her. The young alien's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, recording device still in hand. I will observe, Klichat said. Your emergency response is informative. As they hurried through the corridors, Lauren's communicator chirped. Peters to Dr. Mitchell. We've established partial communications with engineering. Sam Daniels is conscious but trapped. He reports Commander Nelson and 4 others are unconscious and radiation levels are rising. Tell him to move the wounded to the maintenance shaft if possible, Lauren instructed as she entered sickbay. Nurse Kelly, prepare anti-radiation kits and 5 emergency transport stretchers. The sickbay was already buzzing with activity. Nurse Kelly Johnson efficiently directed her staff preparing beds and equipment. Lauren quickly checked on Captain Miller, confirming he was stable, then moved to the central console. Computer, give me a schematic of engineering sections 12 through 15 with current radiation levels. A holographic display appeared, showing dangerous red areas spreading slowly through the lower decks. Several life signs blinked weakly in one of the most contaminated zones. High Commander Vex Terral and the rest of the alien delegation entered sickbay, their postures rigid with tension. Dr. Mitchell, Vex Terral began formally. Our analysis of your command structure did not indicate medical personnel could issue ship-wide emergency protocols. Please clarify your authority in this situation. Lauren didn't look up from the console. In emergency situations, especially those involving immediate health risks to the crew, medical has priority authority over affected areas and personnel. This was again a simplified explanation of complex Starfleet protocols, but it seemed to temporarily satisfy the aliens. Klichat was rapidly updating the data in their device. Communications Officer Lisa Ward rushed into sickbay. Dr. Mitchell, engineering reports the maintenance shaft is blocked. They can't reach Commander Nelson's team without cutting through a bulkhead, but that would release more radiation into the ship. Lauren studied the schematic. We need to establish a containment corridor. Get me Chief Engineer Thompson on the line. Greg Thompson's voice came through a moment later, sounding strained. Thompson here. Situation's bad, Doc. The secondary coolant system ruptured. We've got the main leak contained, but radiation has already spread. Greg, I need a safe passage to those wounded crew members. Can we use the Jeffries tubes to create a sealed path? Possible, but risky. We'd need to reconfigure the atmospheric filters in sections 10 through 16. Do it, Lauren ordered. And I need that radiation contained before it reaches the air recycling system on Deck 6. As she continued issuing instructions, Lauren noticed Secondary Commander Zukan whispering urgently to Vex's Toral. The aliens were becoming visibly agitated, their fronds standing straight up in apparent alarm. This vessel's command structure is compromised, Zukan finally declared loudly. Who truly leads? The medical designated person issues orders to engineering designates. This defies hierarchical protocols. Lauren finally turned to face the aliens directly. Commander, with all due respect, human command structures are adaptable to circumstances. Right now I have the expertise and information needed to handle this medical crisis. But your rank, your position, your insignia indicates subsidiary status. Zukan insisted. Alan Barnes, the security chief who technically outranked Lauren, entered sickbay at that moment. Dr. Mitchell, we've established a security perimeter around the affected areas. What are your orders regarding evacuation of adjacent sections? The aliens watched in clear disbelief as Barnes, with his higher rank insignia, deferred to Lauren without hesitation. Evacuate sections 9 through 11 as a precaution, Lauren decided. Set up a secondary triage center in Cargo Bay 2. Yes, Doc. Right away, Barnes replied and left immediately. Vex Toral's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. This one called you Doc. Is this not a diminutive form? Yet he follows your directives without question. Lauren smiled briefly despite the crisis. It's a term of respect. Cleechat's recording device word. Doc indicates authority without formal rank designation. This requires recalibration of our entire hierarchy analysis. The ship shuddered. Again. The emergency was far from over, and Lauren knew the real challenges, both technical and diplomatic, were just beginning. 3 hours into the crisis, Lauren had transformed the medical bay into an emergency command center. Screens displayed ship schematics and radiation levels. Staff from different departments moved in and out, receiving instructions and reporting updates. The unconscious Captain Miller had been moved to a private recovery room, his condition stable but unchanged. The aliens remained, watching everything with intense focus. Cleechat hadn't stopped recording, while High Commander Vex Toral and Secondary Commander Zukan stood stiffly to one side, their fronds occasionally rippling in what Lauren now recognized as distress or agitation. Dr. Mitchell called Engineer Greg Thompson as he entered sickbay, his uniform stained with coolant fluid. We've established the containment corridor through the Jeffries tubes. Radiation levels are holding steady, but we can't maintain it for more than 2 hours. Lauren nodded. That should be enough time. Chief Barnes, is your rescue team ready? Alan Barnes stepped forward from where he had been coordinating security teams. Yes, Doc. 6 volunteers in radiation suits standing by at Access Point Alpha. Send them in. Tell them to prioritize moving the unconscious crew members first. Nurse Kelly will meet them at decontamination with anti-radiation treatments. As Barnes left to carry out her orders, Tactical Aide Mesrath, another member of the alien delegation, suddenly stepped forward. The alien was wearing what appeared to be a military uniform with even more elaborate markings than Vex Toral's. This situation exceeds acceptable parameters, Mesrath announced, the translation device giving his words a harsh edge. Your vessel's command protocols are dangerously disordered. The designated medical officer issues tactical directives to security forces. This violates basic command principles. Lauren took a deep breath. She didn't have time for this, but the diplomatic implications couldn't be ignored. With respect, our command structure is designed to be flexible during emergencies. The person with the most relevant expertise takes point, regardless of their formal rank. Unacceptable, Mesrath insisted. Leadership must follow established hierarchy or chaos results. We have observed 17 separate violations of your own chain of command in the past hour alone. Before Lauren could respond, her communicator beeped. Doc, this is Daniels. We've reached Commander Nelson and the others. They're alive but heavily irradiated. The path back is clear, but... His voice faltered. The radiation shielding in. This section is failing. If it goes completely, half the ship could be contaminated. Lauren's mind raced. Sam, can you redirect power from the auxiliary systems to reinforce the shielding? Tried that. The conduits are damaged. We need a new solution, fast. Science Officer Diane Foster, who had been analyzing data at a nearby console, spoke up. Dr. Mitchell, if we could create a temporary force field using the deflector array, we might be able to contain the radiation long enough to get everyone out. That would require rerouting power from life support on decks 4 through 6, Greg Thompson warned. And someone would need to manually adjust the deflector controls from the auxiliary engineering station, which is right next to the most heavily irradiated section, Lauren concluded grimly. She thought for a moment. Reduce life support to minimum levels on the affected decks. Everyone not involved in the rescue operation evacuate to decks 2 and 3. She turned to Communications Officer Phil Carter. Get me ship-wide. Carter nodded and pressed a few buttons on his console. You're on, Doc. Attention all crew. This is Dr. Mitchell. We have a radiation containment situation in engineering. All personnel not directly involved in emergency operations must evacuate to decks 2 and 3 immediately. This is not a drill. As she finished, Lauren noticed the aliens, conferring urgently among themselves. Vexteral approached her, his posture somehow both formal and hesitant. Dr. Mitchell, our species has significant resistance to radiation. Our engineering specialists could assist with your containment problem. Lauren blinked in surprise. This was the first time any of the aliens had offered direct help. That would be greatly appreciated, High Commander. However, Vexteral continued, his fronds flattening against his head. Our protocols require clear designation of authority. We cannot function effectively in your fluid command environment. We must know who truly commands this vessel now. Lauren considered her response carefully. She needed their help, but couldn't risk further confusion or delays. In this specific emergency, I am coordinating our response. All departments are reporting to me until the captain or first officer recovers, or until the immediate crisis is resolved. Vexteral seemed to accept this. Then for the duration of this emergency, we will consider you acting captain despite your medical designation. Thank you, Lauren replied simply, deciding not to correct their misunderstanding. If thinking of her as an acting captain helped them work within their own mental framework, so be it. The alien's engineering specialist, a shorter individual named Teslan, stepped forward. Your radiation containment fields operate on different principles than ours, but I believe we can integrate a Zarthak isolation barrier with your deflector technology. Greg Thompson looked skeptical but nodded. Worth a try. Let's get to auxiliary engineering. As they left, the rescue team reported in. Doc, we've got Commander Nelson and 2 others out. They're in bad shape. 3 more to go, including Chief Daniels. Good work. Keep moving, Lauren encouraged them. Nurse Kelly, prepare for incoming radiation cases. Nurse Kelly Johnson responded immediately. Already on it, Doc. Treatment chambers are ready. The aliens watched this exchange with great interest. Klichat's recording device hummed constantly as the young alien followed Lauren around the room. The term Doc seemed to particularly fascinate them. This word, Doc, it carries authority beyond your rank insignia, Klichat observed. Others with superior markings respond to it without question. Lauren smiled tiredly. It's complicated. It's respect for expertise, not just position. Expertise supersedes hierarchy? Klichat sounded genuinely puzzled. How is order maintained? Before Lauren could answer, the ship jolted violently. Alarms blared throughout sickbay. Thompson to Dr. Mitchell, the containment field is destabilizing. We need more power. Lauren moved quickly to the main console. Divert power from non-essential systems, shields, weapons, sensors, everything except life support and communications. That's against emergency protocols, warned Lieutenant Paul Wright from his position at operations. Captain's authorization is required to do it now, Lieutenant. Lauren cut him off firmly. I'll take full responsibility. Wright hesitated only a moment before complying. Yes, Doc. Diverting power now. Tactical aide Mesrath watched this exchange with his fronds fully extended in what appeared to be alarm. The subordinate questions, yet still obeys without proper authorization. How can you function with such disorder? Because right now, keeping people alive matters more than following every protocol to the letter, Lauren replied, her attention still on the console readings. That's something humans understand instinctively. The ship steadied as the power redistribution took effect. A moment later, Thompson's relieved voice came through. It's working, Doc. The Zarthak barrier technology is compatible with our systems. Radiation levels are dropping. The rescue team should be able to get the rest of our people out now. Lauren exhaled slowly. The immediate danger was passing, but she knew they weren't out of trouble yet. Captain Miller was still unconscious. Half the ship was operating on minimal power. And their alien guests were becoming increasingly agitated by what they perceived as a breakdown in proper order. As if reading her thoughts, High Commander Vex Toral approached again. Dr. Mitchell, once this emergency is resolved, we request a formal explanation of your command structure. It defies all logical organization we have encountered in our explorations. Of course, High Commander, Lauren agreed. But first let's focus on getting everyone safely out of danger. Vex Toral's fronds rippled in what might have been acknowledgement. Indeed, safety first, then understanding. Lauren nodded tiredly. Somewhere in this crisis, something important was happening. A first step toward genuine understanding between two very different cultures. But the challenges, both practical and diplomatic, were far from over. The rescue operation continued for another hour. Lauren worked tirelessly, coordinating between departments and making rapid decisions as new problems arose. Finally, the last crew member was pulled from the radiation zone. Chief Engineer Sam Daniels stumbled into sickbay, supported by 2 rescue team members, his face pale but determined. "Everyone's out, Doc," he reported weakly before Nurse Kelly guided him to a treatment bed. Lauren checked the ship's status on the main console. The radiation was contained, but significant damage had been done to the engineering section. Life support was still at minimum levels on 3 decks, and several critical systems were operating on backup power. A small commotion at the sickbay entrance drew her attention. Captain Frank Miller walked in, looking unsteady but conscious. Lieutenant Jack Peters supported him by one arm. "Captain," Lauren said, moving quickly to his side, "you should still be resting." "I heard most of it," Miller said, his voice rough. "Good work, Doctor. I'll take it from here." Before Lauren could respond, High Commander Vex Toral stepped forward, fronds extended in what they now recognized as agitation. "Captain Frank Miller, your recovery alters the command equation. Does leadership authority now transfer from medical designate Mitchell?" The captain looked confused, glancing between Lauren and the alien delegation. Dr. Mitchell was acting under emergency medical protocols. She had full authority to manage the crisis. She issued orders to all departments. Secondary Commander Zukan interjected, including security and engineering. She diverted power from weapon systems. These exceed medical authority in any logical command structure. Captain Miller straightened, wincing slightly at the movement. "In Starfleet, we value expertise and situational judgment over rigid adherence to hierarchy. Dr. Mitchell made the right calls, every one of them." Lauren stepped in, seeing the captain was still weak. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion after you've been properly examined, Captain." "Actually," Miller replied, "I think we need to address this now. Our guests seem concerned about our command structures." The ship suddenly lurched violently, throwing several people off balance. Emergency alarms blared again. "Bridge to Captain Miller," came an urgent voice over the comm system. "Sir, we're detecting a power surge in the antimatter containment system. It may be related to the earlier radiation leak." Miller's face went pale, but he responded immediately. "Understood. What's our status?" "Containment is holding, but the safety systems on the port nacelle are fluctuating. And sir, the Zarthak vessel is being affected by some kind of energy. Feedback through their docking system." Lauren saw the aliens react with alarm, their fronds standing straight up. "Their ship is in danger?" Captain Miller asked sharply. "Yes, sir. The energy feedback is growing stronger." Their systems weren't designed to handle our power configurations. Vexteral spoke rapidly into a communication device in his native language. After a moment, he turned to the humans, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Our vessel reports critical fluctuations in their main power grid. If this continues, both our ships could be severely damaged. Captain Miller swayed slightly, and Lauren could see he was fighting to stay conscious. Concussions weren't something to take lightly. Even with their advanced medical technology, we need to disengage the docking clamps, Miller began, but then his knees buckled. Lauren and Lieutenant Peters caught him before he hit the floor. He needs to rest, Lauren said firmly, helping the captain to a bed. The concussion is more severe than he's admitting. The aliens looked at each other in obvious confusion. Who commands now? Vexteral demanded. Before anyone could answer, Science Officer Diane Foster rushed into sickbay. We've analyzed the problem. The radiation damaged our antimatter regulator. It's creating a feedback loop through the docking connection to the alien vessel. Their power systems are incompatible with the energy signature. Can we shut it down? Lauren asked. Not easily. The main controls were in the damaged section. We'd need to manually reconfigure the emergency regulators, but it would take hours. Junior observer Clechat, who had been quietly recording everything, suddenly spoke up. Our vessel has isolation technology that could contain the energy feedback. Everyone turned to look at the young alien, who seemed startled by the sudden attention. Explain, Vexteral ordered. Our tertiary power dampeners could be modified to absorb the feedback, Clechat explained hesitantly, if deployed correctly. Could that work? Lauren asked Foster. The science officer considered it. Possibly, but we'd need to understand exactly how their technology functions and fast. Vexteral interjected. This is a technical matter. It should be addressed by your engineering leadership, not medical personnel. Dr. Lauren Mitchell made a quick decision. Lieutenant Wright. She called to the bridge officer who had been coordinating with engineering. Get us a direct link to both engineering and the Zarthak vessel's technical specialists. We need to solve this together. Wright hesitated, looking between Lauren and the unconscious captain. Now, Lieutenant, she said firmly. Yes, Doc, he replied, moving to set up the communication link. Mesrath, the tactical aide, stepped forward angrily. This violates all proper authority channels. A medical officer cannot direct technical emergency responses. Engineer Greg Thompson, who had returned from auxiliary engineering, shook his head in frustration. Look, we don't have time for a debate about who should be giving orders. Both our ships are in danger. Our protocols are clear, Zukan insisted. Only designated technical leaders may address technical emergencies. Lauren felt her patience wearing thin. Your protocols may work well for your society, but humans adapt to circumstances. Right now we need every good idea, regardless of who it comes from. Clechat, perhaps emboldened by Lauren's words, spoke again. The solution requires both human and Zarthak technology working together. Neither can solve it alone. To everyone's surprise, a new voice entered the conversation via the communication link that Lieutenant Wright had established. The translation, device identified it as Grand Hierarch Vexteral, the supreme leader of the Zarthak vessel. High Commander Vexteral, our vessel faces critical failure. These humans operate differently than we expected. For the safety of all, I temporarily authorize cooperative emergency protocols. This announcement seemed to shock the alien delegation. Vexteral's fronds flattened completely against his head, a gesture Lauren hadn't seen before. As you command, Grand Hierarch, Vexteral responded formally. Then turning to the humans, he said, we will adapt temporarily. Lauren nodded gratefully. Thank you. Now, Clechat, explain your idea in detail. Greg, Sam, listen carefully, and tell me if it can work with our systems. As the young alien began explaining the technical solution, Lauren noticed Dr. Susan Rodriguez, the ship's xenobiologist, watching with intense interest. You know, Rodriguez whispered to Lauren, this might be the first time in their history that they've had to improvise outside their command structure. Look at their body language. They're uncomfortable, but they're doing it. Lauren realized She was witnessing not just a technical solution being developed, but perhaps the beginning of a profound cultural shift for the Zarthak. Their rigid hierarchy was bending, just slightly in the face of necessity. Working together, she murmured. That's what humans do best. As the engineers and alien technicians began rapidly developing an integration plan, the stakes couldn't be higher. Both ships remained in danger, and the solution would require something neither species had done before, truly collaborative problem-solving that ignored rank and focused solely on expertise. Engineers from both species worked frantically to implement Klichat's solution. The young alien observer had gone from quietly recording events to actively directing the technical team, showing surprising confidence as he explained the modifications needed to the Zarthak isolation technology. Lauren watched with growing optimism as humans and aliens worked side by side, their previous concerns about rank and hierarchy temporarily set aside in the face of urgent need. Even Secondary Commander Zukan, who had been the most vocal critic of human command structure, was helping Engineer Thompson adjust power relays. The integration is at 60%, reported Sam Daniels from his treatment bed, where he insisted on monitoring the progress despite his condition. But the energy feedback is getting worse. We need to hurry. Lauren checked the ship's status on the main console. Warning indicators flashed across multiple systems. How much longer do we have before critical failure? 20 minutes, maybe? Less, replied Lieutenant Paul Wright grimly. Both ships will suffer catastrophic damage if we can't stabilize the feedback loop. High Commander Vexitoral approached Lauren, his posture less rigid than before. Medical designate Mitchell. Dr. Mitchell, he corrected himself. Our Grand Hierarch wishes to speak with the human currently in command. Lauren glanced at Captain Miller, who remained unconscious under Nurse Kelly's care. Commander Nelson was still recovering from radiation exposure. The chain of command pointed to Lieutenant Peters as the next in line, but he was coordinating essential security operations throughout the damaged sections of the ship. That would be me, Lauren said simply. Vextoral's fronds rippled slightly, but he nodded and activated his communication device. The deep voice of Grand Hierarch Voxtoral filled the room. Dr. Mitchell, our sensors indicate the feedback loop is accelerating beyond predicted parameters. Klichat's solution may not complete in time. Lauren felt a chill but kept her voice steady. Do you have an alternative suggestion, Grand Hierarch? Yes. We can disengage our vessel and move to a safe distance. Your ship would likely suffer significant damage, but our vessel would survive. A tense silence fell over the sickbay. The aliens were offering to save themselves at the expense of the USS Horizon and her crew. I understand, Lauren said carefully, but I believe we can still succeed together. Klichat's plan is sound. We just need more time. Time is precisely what we lack, Dr. Mitchell, the Grand Hierarch replied. As leader, I must prioritize the safety of my people. Lauren thought. Quickly. Grand Hierarch, throughout this crisis, your people have observed how humans handle emergency situations. You've seen that we value expertise over rank when circumstances demand it. Now let me tell you what else we value. We don't leave anyone behind. Not our people, and not yours. She moved to the main console and brought up a new schematic. If we reroute emergency power through the auxiliary deflector array, we can create a temporary buffer that will give us the extra time needed to complete the integration. That would require someone to manually adjust the deflector controls from the auxiliary control room, Greg Thompson pointed out. The radiation levels there are still dangerous. I'll go, Lauren said immediately. Doc, no, protested Sam Daniels, weakly from his bed. The exposure could be lethal. I can treat myself for radiation exposure afterward, Lauren replied. Right now, saving both ships is what matters. To everyone's surprise, Klichat stepped forward. I will accompany Dr. Mitchell. My species has greater radiation tolerance and I understand the technical requirements. High Commander Vex Taral looked stunned. Junior Observer, you are not authorized for such action. This violates your designated role. With respect, High Commander, Klichat replied, his voice steadier than before. I have observed that in emergencies, Humans assign tasks based on capability, not designated role. I am capable of assisting. Grand Hierarch Voxteral's voice came through the communication device again. Extraordinary. Clechat, you are temporarily designated as Technical Emergency Assistant. Proceed with Dr. Mitchell. Lauren and Clechat moved quickly, grabbing radiation protection gear as they left sickbay. As they hurried through the corridors toward the auxiliary control room, Lauren glanced at the young alien. Thank you for volunteering, she said. That couldn't have been easy in your culture. It was not, Clechat admitted. But I have learned much observing you, Dr. Mitchell. Sometimes protocol must adapt to reality. They reached the auxiliary control room and immediately began working. The radiation levels were high but not immediately dangerous with their protective gear. Lauren's fingers flew over the controls, while Clechat made precise adjustments to a device he had brought from the alien vessel. Integration at 80%, Lauren reported through her communicator. How's the feedback loop? Still growing, but slower now, Thompson replied. Whatever you're doing is helping. Keep going. For several tense minutes, Lauren and Clechat worked in perfect coordination, neither giving orders to the other, but communicating clearly about what needed to be done. Finally, Clechat connected the last circuit on his device. Integration complete, he announced. Activating Zarthak isolation field, now. The ship hummed deeply as the alien technology interfaced with the human systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then gradually the warning indicators on the console began changing from red to yellow, and finally to green. It's working, came Thompson's excited voice over the communicator. The feedback loop is dissipating, both ships are stabilizing. Lauren and Clechat shared a look of relief before hurrying back to sickbay, where they were met with cheers from both humans and aliens. Even Secondary Commander Zukan seemed impressed, his earlier disapproval replaced with something like reluctant respect. 2 days later, the emergency was fully resolved. Repairs were underway, and Captain Miller had recovered enough to resume command. He called for a formal meeting with the entire alien delegation in the observation lounge, which had been restored to its pre-crisis condition. High Commander Vextoral, Captain Miller began. On behalf of my crew, I want to express our gratitude for your assistance during this crisis, particularly to Junior Observer Clechat, whose quick thinking helped save both our vessels. Vextoral's fronds moved gently in what they now recognized as their version of acknowledgement. Captain Miller, we came to study human command structures. We believed our rigid hierarchy was superior to your flexible approach. Recent events have challenged this assumption. Different doesn't always mean better or worse, Miller replied, diplomatically. Just different. Perhaps, Vextoral conceded. But we have learned that there is value in what you call situational leadership. Grand Hierarch Voxteral has authorized a new position within our structure, situational expertise. Consultant. Clechat will be the first to hold this role. The young alien stood straighter, his fronds extended with what looked like pride. Captain Miller smiled. A cultural exchange that benefits both our peoples. That's what exploration is all about. After the meeting concluded, Lauren remained behind for a moment, looking out at the stars. Clechat approached her. Dr. Mitchell, the alien said hesitantly, I have one final question for my observations. This term, Doc, it confused us greatly. It is not a rank, yet it carries authority. How is this possible? Lauren thought about it. It's a title of respect, based on knowledge and trust rather than position. When someone calls me Doc, they're acknowledging my expertise, but also something more personal, that they trust my judgment. Clechat was silent for a moment, processing this. In our language, we have no such term, but perhaps we will. Now, as the alien turned to leave, he paused and looked back. Thank you, Doc, he said carefully, using the human term. Lauren smiled. Two different species, from different worlds, with different ways of organizing themselves, yet in the end respect transcended those differences. Maybe that was the most important lesson of all. You're welcome, Clechat, she replied, and thank you. Outside the viewport, The stars continued their silent vigil as the human and alien ships, now repaired, prepared to go their separate ways. Each carrying new understanding of the other, and each a little changed by the encounter.